All right, popping in for our last episode of this week, and this is, I think, just off the names. I mean, they haven't had the fights, but this is the top card of the year, which is they having. This is the Day of Reckoning, which is going to be in Saudi Arabia. This is Matchroom Boxing and Queensberry coming together to bring us. So let's just go through these names. So we have leading off Anthony Joshua versus Otto Wallin. We have Deontay Wilder versus Joseph Parker. Dimitri Bivol versus Lyndon Arthur. Daniel Dubois versus Jarrell Miller. Apatea versus Zuru. And Hergovich versus Demori. So these are all top level fights. I've actually never seen. This, as you said earlier, this is reminiscent of a UFC card. But there's some deep pockets. There's some deep oil pockets out there in Saudi Arabia. But this has to be one of the best cards of the last decades to have this 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 much talent together. I
A
mean,
lot of names and fights, not just names, right? Because there was a
yeah,
lot of names on that Tank Davis card, right? Tank Davis, Hector Luis Garcia, Boots Ennis versus Karen Chukajan, Demetrius
mhm.
Andrade versus Damon Nicholson, Rashidi Ellis versus my man from the Venezuelan cat. I can't think of his name. A
They
lot of
gotta
names
beat
on
him. Yeah,
that
yeah,
card,
they gotta beat him. Yeah.
but not the most, not the best fights, right? These should be good fights, right? These should be very, very good fights. I mean, yeah, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for this. This card's gonna be something.
So let's kind of start at the top of the card and go down and really discuss the implications. So I mean, obviously, what they're looking to do is to pit Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder, right? So what so this is
Well, maybe.
well, to me, this reminds me back in the day where they would like showcase the same fighters on the same card. It was like, remember when Oscar De La Hoya and Bernard Hopkins, they follow on the same card, and then after that, they match them up together. So so this is my thoughts, in there. So and I think that these are these are some tough fights, but I think that they're winnable fights for both of the opponents. I actually think that Deontay Wilder will have a little bit more trouble with Joseph Parker than Anthony Joshua would have with Otto Wallen. But I mean, this is my thoughts. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
I No, I think that Otto Marlene for Joshua is the perfect opponent for Anthony Joshua to go out and put on a good old fashioned. This will be one. This will be the 1-2 fight. This will be 1-2, 1-2 back and forth all night. They'll be bouncing around. He'll have a chance to look pretty. Um, Derek James, interestingly, not going to be in Anthony Joshua's corner for this fight against
Hmm.
Otto Marlene. Um, my man who works with Devin Haney apparently is going to be working the corner. I can't think of the guy's name off the top of my head, but no Derek James for this fight. I don't
That's
know
that's
who's going to have the easier fight. Go ahead. What do you want to say?
well, no, I'm just saying that just kind of continues the odd year for Derek James, right? So this has been
Odd is one way of describing it.
it's been a acrimonious years coming off of being trainer of the year. But I mean, I'm not. Maybe I don't know if he was fired, or maybe it might have been a scheduling conflict or something. I don't know if there's any.
I don't know. I don't know, but he's
Yeah, I
not who
mean,
we
yeah,
want to.
his
What's Ben Davidson? Is it Ben Davidson?
Ben Davis.
That's
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
believe Ben Davidson is going to be the head trainer for Anthony Joshua um, for this fight. No Derek James. Look, Joseph Parker coming off of a loss too, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Just
Coming off of a loss to who did Joseph Parker just fight recently? He lost to somebody.
well, he lost to Joe Joyce, but that was a few fights ago. He was knocked out by Joe Joyce.
What was
But
his last fight?
I thought he No, his last fight was a nondescript opponent, Simon Keene, who he knocked out in the third round. But his last loss was against Joe Joyce. But he has I mean he's a formidable opponent or whatnot, but he's kind of right. He's no kind of extra effects. He's kind of he's real stable. But I think that he has little subtle movements and other things, tactics that I could frustrate Deontay Wilder, who has not.
Joseph Parker, you mean?
Yeah, Joseph Parker, excuse me. Yeah, he has some tactics that could frustrate Deontay Wilder, who hasn't been the most active fighter lately. But
yeah.
Joe Joyce has won his last two fights, but they haven't been against any. I mean, last three fights, but they haven't.
Joseph Parker, I was about to say, he's got coming off of 3 wins. I thought the last fight he had was against Joe Joyce, but no, Jack
he's been kind of. I think after that he kind of went back and was like, let me just kind of go away from the public's eye and just kind of get my confidence back.
Build yourself back up. That was a tough fight for him. He got cut in that fight. That was a grueling fight. I think took a little bit out of both guys, that Parker and Joyce fight. Yeah. That's how you're supposed to do it. That's how you're supposed to do it.
Exactly. It is. And his 3 losses are, his against Joe Joyce, that was his first time being knocked out. And then he had a 2-fight losing streak when he lost to Anthony Joshua for that was a unification bout, and then turned right back around and lost to Dillian White. Out there.
I think somewhat controversially, if I'm not mistaken. I think
it was a close
he beat Dillian
fight.
White.
Yeah, so White was down in the 12th round. Parker was down in the second and the 9th. So he's been, he's been taking his licks at this time, but he's been active, right? So
maybe it wasn't that close then. He got knocked down in 2 different rounds. I see one guy hit at 112.
The scorecards were pretty close. It was a unanimous decision loss, 113, 112, 115 to 110. 114 to 111, but this also was at the O2, which was kind of Dillian's home. But I will say he's already fought 3 times this year.
He has fought 3 times this year, and he's only 31 years old, which is a baby for a heavyweight. Not a baby,
exactly.
Very, very young for a heavyweight. The youngest guy I think he's still younger than Anthony Joshua, if I'm not.
No, he's definitely younger than Anthony Joshua. But
wow, AJ 34. Yeah, Joseph Parker looks kind of like an older guy, but he's the younger guy in the division. I mean, didn't realize he was only 31 years old. So that being said, I fully expect Wilder to punch this guy's head off of his shoulders. So this guy looks like this guy's been down a lot in his career.
He has been down a lot. And Deontay doesn't even have to land clean with the type of that he has.
No, he does not. And
do you think, it's different for heavyweights, but do you think there's a chance that he gets old overnight?
Wilder, of course. Of course. Wilder's 37 years old?
He's 38.
38 years old? Of course. He's been sitting around. I mean, we say sitting around. He apparently he's been working with Malik Scott. He's not like he's been sitting on the couch like when he got Tyson Fury up off the couch.
It's different being in the ring, and even with Tyson and
you're right.
And Tyson Fury's been more active than him, but you can see that Tyson Fury wasn't sharp in his last fight. And so Deontay, since 2020, he's only fought once a year. He fought once in 2020. When he got knocked out by Tyson Fury the first time.
Beat up and knocked out.
And then he fought once in 2021. Sorry about that. Commercial coming up. And then he fought once in 2022. And he's going to
against the Viking guy, right?
Against the Viking, against Robert
Kalenius. And that fight was a minute, 30 seconds. How long did that fight last?
If that. It was
yeah.
It lasted more than that. It's saying 257 but
to your point, not much activity over the last several years, and inactivity is a prize fighter's worst enemy. Can be a prize fighter's worst enemy.
Absolutely. So I mean,
Especially a guy like Wilder who didn't was a basketball player, right? Didn't come up boxing like a guy like
mhm.
Fury's been boxing since he was 3 years old, right? Been walking
Yeah,
around.
I think he was actually football, which he's got kind of a slim
Oh,
frame, but he was
Wilder?
like, yeah. I
No,
think he
Wilder was basketball.
really. I thought he always talked about playing for the University of Alabama or something to that
He
effect.
probably wanted to play football there, but no, Wilder was like a Division 3 or Division 2 basketball player for a
Okay,
time. Yeah,
okay,
yeah. Point is, boxing is not in so much a part of his DNA like a guy like Tyson Fury, where you can pick him up off the couch and you can tell the difference. There's a difference there, right?
yeah,
Inactivity for a Fury versus inactivity for a Wilder. It's going to factor in differently. So you're onto something there. Parker has been very active, not against the type of guys that can punch a hole through a car door, right? Like Deontay Wilder can.
absolutely.
Look, yeah, Parker could be in a fight. I could see this fight going down the way the Luis Ortiz fight went down, where you see Parker is up for all the rounds, and in the seventh round or eighth round, Wilder finds the range with that right hand and puts Parker to sleep.
And
Once he catches Parker, that's going to be it.
yeah, and it can be sudden and it can be very abrupt. But I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
this does. I mean, I think this is important because this does have implications for the heavyweight division, and it's just
Huge implications. This whole card does.
absolutely. And I mean, I'm happy because the heavyweight division has been in a bit of a rut at this point, and I think it's impacting the sport as a whole. So I'm glad that this fight is coming up. So and even beyond that, and we'll stick with the heavyweight. So we have Daniel Dubois who's taking on Jarrell Miller. So Daniel Dubois in his last fight, of course, was stopped controversially by Usyk in a fight that he was I I think that he had his moments. Of course, when he quote unquote dropped Usyk with a body shot, but it could have been classified as it was classified as a low blow. But at the same time, I thought Usyk was clearly outboxing him, and then at a point when he hurt him, you can kind of see that Daniel Dubois really didn't want any more in there, and that's something that Jarrell Miller is harping upon in the sense that as he classified it, he said, "We smell bitch in him. Once that bitch is in you, it ain't going anywhere." So this is something that is this is a tag that's kind of followed Dubois ever since his first loss against Joe Joyce, where
Being
he
soft, right? Being
was
soft.
yeah being soft and just really kind of quitting. So against where he'll kind of, if he gets hurt, he'll take a knee, but part of that is a tactic, right? So I've seen Tim Bradley use that to great effect in the sense, if you're hurt, don't try to go in there and exchange with somebody and get caught with something when your head is not clean, you can't see it. Take a knee, get that count, but it's a difference when Tim Bradley does it, because he usually comes back and wins those fights and puts on the show. He just needs that. And then usually with Dubois, that is just the sign of that this fight is not going to last longer. So
Two different caliber of fighters. Also, Tim Bradley. We joke, he's the butt of a lot of jokes nowadays because of his position at ESPN and what he says, some of the stuff, some of his takes. But
yeah,
look, prime Tim Bradley is an excellent fighter at 140 pounds. Totally different. You're talking about a B plus level guy in Bradley and a C level fighter in Daniel Dubois. Is what it comes down to at the end of the day with Daniel Dubois. He's not a he's just okay. He's an okay guy. But I will say this: if you're Daniel Dubois, you are fighting. I hate to say this for a guy, Daniel Dubois, who I think is in his 20s still. Daniel Dubois.
yeah, he is. Yeah,
he's fighting for his career. He goes in there and loses to a guy like Jarrell Miller, who, despite Jarrell Miller's abilities, which we don't know, right? Because we don't know what this guy is like without the fucking super soldier serum inside of his veins, right?
I mean, and even with that, I mean, I've never been really impressed with him.
Blown away by Jerome Miller,
I've
even
never
more.
been.
Okay, then even more so. Daniel Dubois has got to beat Jerome Miller.
He is,
If
and
he doesn't,
he's 26 years old, so
he's
he's a
26 years
young
old.
cat.
So you hate to say it that a guy is fighting for his career at this point. It's just that,
He definitely is. He
yeah,
definitely is.
yeah. I mean, I don't. If you're Frank Warren, what's the use of keeping this guy around anymore if you can't beat a Jarrell Miller?
No, I
I
mean,
mean,
I think that he know, and I give him credit for for stepping up and taking this fight. A lot of times he just because he's a really demure, kind of quiet guy, and then he seems to be very kind of pensive. Like he seems like he might be in his head too much. I don't know what's up with some of these British fighters or whatnot because
English muffins. That's why they call them English muffins, man. They call them
yeah, it's like
for a
they
reason.
right. So he's
It's his
kind of
pen.
yeah.
Same thing
It's
with
like
Joshua.
he'll be thinking about it so much that he'll kind
Thinking
of
about getting hit and what's going to happen if
exactly,
this
and then
guy hits me.
he'll wind himself up so much that
Yeah.
it's gonna increase the impact of the punch. But
Yeah.
he's definitely fighting for his career at this point to be any type of a viable player within the heavyweight division. But he has age on his side. He has natural punching power. I don't there's some things about his stance and a little bit about his technique that I would like for him to do. I don't like the fact that he has a bit of a chicken wing when he kind of holds his elbows out. He
He's
doesn't kind
very,
of
very awkward. He fights like one of those rock'em sock'em robots kind of. Even a
yeah,
less fluid, he just seems very, very robotic. Same with AJ.
he is. Yeah.
Very,
Well,
very stiff.
it does seem with AJ. I think AJ seems a little bit more naturally athletic. I mean, more athletic than
Yeah,
Daniel Dubois.
a
So,
thousand, a
yeah,
thousand percent, a
yeah.
thousand percent. Did we talk about AJ Wallin?
We
Just a
didn't. We
little.
did. Yeah. I think we kind of got carried on to the thinking about Wilder. But what we were saying is like who we yeah you did talk about him. We were talking about who was the tougher challenge, and I
Oh, the
think
more dangerous
he was the
opponent. Yeah,
most
yeah,
adjusted
yeah.
opponent. And then I
Wallin's
think
gonna have to kill Joshua to get a win in there, right?
he is.
He's got to
And,
freaking knock this guy out twice probably to get a win, right?
and
I mean,
and if you look at his record, I mean, he's got like people who
who
know
Wallin?
yeah, Valen, he's got some good heavyweights on there. But I think sometimes
Tyson Fury.
yeah, but see, that's the thing is you have to be leery of somebody who his best moment has come in a loss, right? Because a lot of
Not fair.
right there, and then so I think with him and his best moment did come in the loss, right? So this goes all the way back to Razor Ruddock, where he was getting a lot of accolades and all this stuff, and it was really because how he performed against Mike Tyson. And then it was like, but those were losses that he had. And then after that, Lennox Lewis came up and then basically kind of shut the door on Razor Ruddock. But
Ooh, he beat Gassiev, Cam. I didn't know he beat Gassiev.
Valen did?
Yeah. Now
Okay, I didn't know that.
Gassiev is a guy that came up from cruiserweight, right? Gassiev was one of the guys that Usyk had beaten to become undisputed at cruiserweight.
Uh-huh.
So Gassiev, still a young guy, at 30, moving up in weight, but Gassiev is a solid fighter. That's a good win, and he came out of there with a split decision. 115, 113s, and somebody who obviously had the scorecard filled out before the fight even began. Mateo Montoya had it 111, 117. So we know who got the luxury suite at the JW Marriott and got free room service, courtesy of whoever, right? 111, 117 is up without even watching the fight. I already know that this guy's card was filled out before the fight started. Point is, I say all
It
that to
is.
say this. That's a
Go ahead.
good win, Cam. That is that's
Yeah.
a solid win. Even if it was we had 3 115, 113s, Gassiev is a solid guy. Solid guy. Very, very, very solid opponent. So
So
should be
let's
an interesting fight. This should be an interesting fight. Stylistically, you can't ask for more if you're AJ, right? Stylistically, this Wallin is gonna fight the type of fight AJ likes to fight. On his toes, getting in and out, ones and twos. It's gonna be an Olympic style, amateur style boxing match. Can't ask for more if you're AJ.
All right. So and then we're gonna close out by just talking about the other two remaining fights, and I think there's another fight on there that I want to just make sure. And so
Was it Hergrovich? Was the other? Was that the other heavyweight fight?
yeah, that
Hergrovich.
one, but no, something else. But like I want to confirm before I bring this name up. But we have Opataya versus Zuru,
Woo! He's next up.
and then Philip Hergovich versus I think it's Frank Demori or whatnot. So give us just a little bit kind of quick. I mean, excuse me, that's a Mark Demori, but give us a little quick summation of Jay Apatea, and then like why do you think that he is the next man up?
Jess, you gotta watch the kid fight. First time I had heard of him, he was a very, very highly rated amateur. I believe he won a gold medal for Australia or New Zealand in the last Olympics, if I'm not mistaken. Gotta watch this kid. This kid can do it all. Big, strong, very, very, very athletic kid. Beat Myris Briedis, who I thought beat Alexander Usyk when they fought at cruiserweight. If anyone out there who has not watched the Briedis Usyk fight, Usyk's toughest fight to date, even at heavyweight, Usyk's toughest fight to date was against Myris Briedis, and I had Briedis edging out Usyk in that fight. Very, very close fight. Opataya came in and did much, much better than Usyk did. He took a fracture, got a fractured eye socket, I believe, in that fight. Broke Briedis' jaw in that fight. Both guys were out for a long, long time after that fight. This kid Jai Opataya excites me, man. He is the next thing at cruiserweight, a division that is kind of I don't want to call it purgatory. It's just never ever on anybody's radar for whatever strange reason. It exists the same place where you see the booger weights, the guys that fight below 115 pounds. Cruiserweight is there too, and I never understood why. It's a really, really exciting. Maybe because of all the Eastern Euros. It's a lot of guys whose names you have a tough time pronouncing and shit like that. Maybe that's why. But yeah, Jai Opataya, man, keep an eye on this kid. Keep an eye on this kid. He's next up. I don't know anything at all about his opponent. So, when it's time for the fight to go down, I'm going to struggle to break the fight down. I don't know anything about this guy, but
and then so we also have Philip Hergovich, who is in a lot of sanctioned bodies the kind of the number one ranked heavyweight, and then he's taking
shouldn't be
Mark Demori, who is a lot of people don't know him, but he gained some fame from when he fought David Hay back in 2016, and it was one of the most kind of embarrassing displays ever. And Hay kind of like, so that's the only reason that I even know him. He's known as the Viking. He's 41 years old, so obviously this is just a showcase fight for Philip Hergovich.
And, should have never got the win against Zhilei. They robbed. Then he got a controversial win over Zhilei Zhang too, didn't he?
Yeah,
on that Usyk Joshua card. He ain't win that fucking fight.
Yeah. And so real quickly, because we skipped over
Bivol, right?
Bivol versus Lyndon Arthur, which is Lyndon Arthur, who had I believe he is coming off of a loss But he had initially beat
Anthony Yard.
Anthony Yard, and then he came out and actually was knocked out
Yeah, Yard
by
fucking
Yard.
put him in a Yard like you. Yeah, Yard came out and beat his ass in that fight. Yard beat his ass. Arthur though, Lyndon Arthur is a very very competent boxer.
He is a very competent. He's
and stylistically, this fight should be interesting. It should be interesting. It's going to be tough for anybody to outbox Dimitri Bivol, right? To beat Bivol at his own game. And Lyndon Arthur is very, very much a textbook kind of boxer, right? Yeah. Not much special effects. Above average athlete, but there's no sazon, right? It's 1-1-2, 1-1-2, maybe a hook in medium and close range, maybe an uppercut, but it's going to be a lot of 1-2s. And it's going to be very, very hard to out 1-2 a guy like Dimitri Bivol, right? Who gets more out of that 1-2 than anybody, especially at this point, right? Erislandy Lara was another guy who got more out of the 1-2 than anybody. But Lara's old now and past it. Bivol is the guy. He's the 1-2 master, right? No one's going to get more out of that 1-2 than Bivol. Should be a decent fight. This fight is nowhere close to the main event, which is where Bivol belongs, right? Bivol is not some main event fighter unless he's fighting Canelo or he's fighting Artur Beterbiev, right? Mm-hmm. So this fight will probably be the first fight of the night, which is where Dimitri Bivol belongs. 11 title defenses for Dimitri Bivol. Nothing to sneeze at in what is a very, very competitive division at a 175. He's fought real live bodies in there at 175 pounds. And say what you want about Bivol and stylistically, blah, blah, blah. He's got arguably one of the, much as I hate to say this shit, he's got one of the best wins in the sport, right? Against Canelo fucking Alvarez, right? Say what you want, and I've been plenty critical of Canelo Alvarez. He's got one of the best fucking wins in the sport against Canelo Alvarez, who he smoked, right? And the most
he was somebody's fighter of the year last year, based off of that win and the
off of the Canelo win. Yeah, he got on people's pound for pound list, which I stopped short of that. But look, I mean, yeah, his wins are his wins. I mean, made Joe Smith look absolutely ridiculous in a fight where Joe Smith buzzed him several times in that fight. Really, really did a good job against Joe Smith. He's got wins against, you have his record pulled up? He's beaten Jean Pascal also. He beat Zurdo out of the motherfucking division.
Yeah. You speaking of Bivol, Demetrius Bivol?
I'm talking about Bivol, yeah.
Yeah. No, he's formidable, which is I don't think that he should open up the card because he's one of the few people that's actually bringing in a belt with him to fight. These guys don't have belts, but they are heavyweights. But I don't think that he should open the card. And I think like Lyndon Arthur is a good fighter. So this is not Philip Hergovich fighting D. Maury, which is just a showcase. This is a good fighter. And also there's one quick thing, and then we'll need to kind of wrap it up after this, is that Frank Sanchez is also on this card.
Really?
Frank Sanchez is on the card. He's fighting Junior Fa, who is a
okay.
So who's a stablemate of Joseph Parker? I guess they're fellow.
They're both Kiwis. They're both Kiwis.
So this is a undefeated heavyweight champion who struggles to get fights because he's a Cuban kind of master boxer, and so he
beat the shit out of F.A. Ajagba. He stopped F.A. Ajagba, didn't he?
He did.
He beat the hell out of him.
So this is somebody else. So when you think about when we come from that weekend, we should it's going to shake up the heavyweight division, and then we should have a pretty clear picture of who are going to be next up, as we await Tyson Fury against Alexander Usyk.
Yeah. You know who's cleared his schedule for this to watch this fight, to watch this card? Francis motherfucking Ngannou is going to be parked in place.
He's probably going to be down
the
there.
Disturb sign on the fucking front door. Like, this is because his next opponent, mark my words, Francis Ngannou's next opponent is somewhere on this card. Guarantee Francis Ngannou's next opponent is on this card.
Yeah, I'm guessing
he will be watching.
There. Yeah, well, I'm guessing he's probably going to be there. What do you think?
Oh, hey, you got me.
I think he's going to be there.
Maybe even, yeah. I mean, yeah. Shit.
Actually, I mean, all of them should, be there. I mean, Tyson might not. I mean, but I would be surprised if Francis Ngannou wasn't ringside.
Wasn't ringside.
So, yeah. Right. So just to kind of keep his name buzzing a little bit, and they said, like, one of these guys might be his next opponent, in that sense right there. So that's just going to keep him on the mind of people without even fighting, by just showing up to the fight.
By just showing up. Yeah. I'm sure he'll get comped a ticket, and
absolutely
someone will comp him a nice fucking hotel room or whatever. Yeah, no, you're right. He should be ringside. And Fury's ass should be too, although I doubt that he will be, right? Because he's got his next opponent lined up, right? He should be
he better be training. He better be on his timing and a lot of things, because if not, even though I think most of the pundits would pick him as the favorite to win against Usyk at this point right now, that version that was in the ring against
gets beat.
He gets beat. The guy was his timing was off, his range there, because he was like either punching over the target. He wasn't and I think Ngannou's strength surprised him a lot too. I don't think he was able to grapple as much as he thought he was going to.
Hell no. Yeah. That motherfucker is big as hell. And I made a point to somebody in the barbershop, because the barbershops are full of Deontay Wilder acolytes, right? These guys
oh my God.
These guys are fucking everywhere. I thought they all renounced their religion after their god was defeated by the white man. But they're still around. And one of these guys popped up at the barbershop and talked about how this fight was proof of that Fury cheated, and how can he knock out Wilder. And I said, fam, I haven't watched the fight yet because I hadn't at that point. I said, fam, let's go to BoxRec and let's see what the official weights were, because I already knew from watching some of the highlights. Francis Ngannou, 260 plus fucking pounds of pure muscle. African fucking muscle.
I mean, maybe 6% body fat. This guy
260. Fury weighed in at 270 for that fight. By way of contrast, Deontay Wilder was what, 218 or 220 for one of those fights?
220.
That's a massive weight advantage or disadvantage for Wilder, advantage for Fury.
Yeah, and then look at
50-pound weight advantage.
Exactly, and then look at Ngannou's legs, and then look at Deontay Wilder's legs. So if somebody's leaning on you, his legs are not going to stand up to that.
No,
he's not going to stand up to that at all.
Yeah, that motherfucker Ngannou, man, I'm sure he wishes he had pursued boxing a little early. He probably made more in that fight against Fury than he made in fucking 10 or 15 fights in the UFC.
Like maybe his whole career in the UFC. Like he was woefully underpaid. Maybe in his whole career in the UFC. Like that's how big the disparity was in there.
Unfortunately. But anyway, I know you got stuff to do, man. I don't want hold you up.
Yeah, absolutely. But all right, further. But we appreciate y'all rocking with us. But this is a car, and then so as we get closer to these fights, we will come with our pundit picks. At this time, it's a little bit too early. We want to do a little bit of an investigative reporting, do some homework on these fights, and then but we will come back We're gonna give you the odds for these fights, and we're also going to give our pundit picks in there. But it looks like it's gonna end, like boxing is gonna end on a high note, which I definitely appreciate. All right, do you want to anything, Boston Jared, before we sign off?
No, man, it's good to be back on here. I know we had a lull, there were fights, but I don't think it was fights that anybody was clamoring to see. But like you said, man, these next few weeks, man, it is gonna be these are serious fights coming up here.
Yeah.
Serious fights with major implications.
Exactly. And we will be on next week because who do we have fighting?
Oh yeah, we got my man Boo Boo Andrade.
Boo Boo.
The coming out party of all coming out parties.
Yes, and we will be here with our pundit picks. Hopefully, we'll be at full strength or whatnot. So we're gonna
we should be.
Yeah,
Jamal motherfucking Charlo also on that card. What proof that as I've said before, the boxing gods are not without a sense of irony. That this guy is now fighting on Boo Boo Andrade's
undercard.
Hilarious. If you don't think that's lost on Demetrius and his people, I tell you something.
Oh yeah, no, not at all. Not at all.
I've received several interesting text messages here.
Oh, come on. As much as they used to bark at him and like mean him and all that stuff. So yeah. So irony, you know what I'm saying? So irony is one of the best kind of features in life. So with that said, this is your man, Professor Nim. I'm signing off for Boston Jared. We are the Pundits of Pugilism. Make sure that you like and subscribe, and we'll be back with another popping episode next week.
See y'all next week.
All right.